Get ready for another video in Alex's garage. All right, so first things first, we've already disassembled this and I'm not going over how to take it apart. I know we've had people have commented on how did you take it apart? Well, hopefully when we put it back together, you'll be able to extrapolate. So I'm kind of dropping in on an already disassembled unit, but I want to show you where we're starting here. All right, so do you see way down in here? This car was sitting in a barn for over 20 years and all of the fuel that was in the float had volatilized and evaporated, leaving solids and basically varnish on the bottom. There's a number of jets and a number of different flow tubes and whatnot in there. And in this case, right in here, I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can probably see that. Right inside here, this is the accelerator pump, and this is where the accelerator jets go. You can see there's a lot of material and debris inside there. And in this case, the accelerator pump was frozen, and it didn't come out without force. And when I got that out, it actually broke the shaft for the accelerator pump. So we had to order another one of those. By the way, if anybody who sells MG parts is listening, you should make that component a lot easier to find. They range in price from $9 to $50 online. And there's one guy in the Czech Republic that sells a lot of them. And I wasn't going to wait for it to move to ship from the Czech Republic. But I did find on eBay a gentleman in Italy that was selling one, and I got it for about $19. So anyway, accelerator pump and all this stuff. We're going to get in here with some carburetor cleaner and some maybe a brush or something, and we're going to clean that out. So this is the before, you can see here, and then I will clean this out and then we'll do an after. Okay, so here's your after. I think that looks a whole lot cleaner. Got a lot of the gook out of there. Cleaned it all out. I have cleaned the surfaces inside here, but I want to point out some critical components. These are your idle jets right here and here. So when the throttle is to nowhere, and the throttle is like to nothing, this is where you're going to be getting your fuel through that jet right there. The other two things to notice on here are there's two holes, one here and one right here. Those need to be clean and free. Those are, oops, yeah, these right here and here and right here and here. Those are for back pressure, so the jets can get a good flow. And this is part of the structure that really sets apart the SU from, or the Weber from the SU, is what happens when you go from idle to mid-range to full. And I found a really good piece of reference. Let me go ahead and show that on the screen here. Anyway, it'll show the difference between where the jets are engaged on an SU versus which jets are engaged in different parts of the process with the Weber. So let me go ahead and put that on the screen so you can see what that looks like. All right, so the next thing that's going to get cleaned are these Venturis. You can see they're pretty nasty looking, but the other thing I want to mention on here is this is where the interface is between the Venturi and where it seats inside the shaft. You can see there's a lot of old glazed fuel in here. It's not rust because it's aluminum, but there's a little bit of soot right in here. All we need to do is get this clean to the point where it'll slide back in easily. Another thing to note is it's very difficult to get these out. Again, the fuel that was behind them had become almost like a lacquer or a glue, and it fused these to the walls. It was hard to get them out. But another thing, okay, so the jet feeds from one end of this right here, and this end is a small screw that is engaged right here to hold them into place. If you over tighten this screw, I don't know if you can notice, I don't know how I would show you. Maybe I can show it like this. If you over tighten that screw, it'll push this out of round, which makes it even harder, but harder to remove. But it also changes the geometry ever so slightly right here. So the thing about that screw is it's not, you don't have to torque it in. It's just supposed to fill that gap, and that just keeps it from spinning. The screw itself has a retaining pin, so it's not going to unscrew, so that you don't have to get torque on them. Just fill the void so that it won't come out. I'm going to see if I can clean these up, and hopefully they're not too badly out of round that I can slide them back into place. But let's go ahead and clean these babies up. Here's the other one over here. These are the befores, and I'll show you the afters. Oh, look at all that soot down in there. Down inside here. We're going to get all that cleaned up. That'll get some good airflow once we get that clean. Alright, so here's a quick little before and after. This is before. Really nasty, a lot of stuff on there. And here's the after. Nice and clean. And these do now slide. Orient them. The orientation is important, but we'll go over that in a little while. But the point is that these do now slide nicely into their holes, and this does as well. A little bit snug, but at least it's round, and they slide. So these would be very difficult to move in there. You've got all the kind of gook and stuff on the outside. So we're going to clean these up, and then we'll move on. One quick little tip. What I've been doing for cleaning these is I've taken little don't know if you can see my scissors. I've been cutting out little thumb-sized triangles of green scrunchies so that when I'm working them, I can just work my thumb on it. And it's not too abrasive. I'm not using a big piece of sandpaper or anything, but these little greenies, soak them in some carb cleaner, and they really do the number. So let's go ahead and capture the clean on this next one. My scrunchie was getting old. Had to get a new scrunchie. The outside of these is less important as what it looks like. It's more important what it feels like. It has to have no resistance sliding through the sleeve there. So if there's any residue, anything that's built up on there, that needs to be reduced. All right, that feels much better. Nice and clean. This outside edge nice and smooth. All right, let's get on this one. Looks pretty clean to me. All right, so we're going to slide these babies in. These again are the fixed Venturis. They create the pressure drop in the air as it drops from a larger size to a smaller size, and that change in air pressure is what draws the fuel through the main jets. And there, you can see on these there's a space for a jet right here. This is the mid-range jet, and then there's a space for a jet right here, and that is for the main jet. So that's when you're full open, full throttle, then the fuel will be coming out from the center. You see that? Right down in there. All right, so there's some orientation to these, and there's a left and a right, I suppose. The trick here is that these holes are for the jets, and these holes are for the little screws. These little screws that hold them in, right? Okay, so the large one goes in first, and it goes back. You can see on the back, way in the back there, way in the back, right here. Let me see where my finger is. Right there, there's a jet, right there. And so this slot is going to go against the jet, which is at the top, 12 o'clock right up here. And this little hole is going to orient 180 degrees, see that? To this little slot right here where that little screw goes. Twink, just like that. Now, these little screws, let's talk about these before I get these installed. They have these little retaining rings, and again, these are not supposed to be tightened. They're just supposed to go in there and engage the slot. That's all they need to do is engage that slot so that it doesn't move, it doesn't come out, right? You don't want to push them down. You don't want to torque those. So that's why they have these retaining pins. These, the idea here is that you can bend these up and then it will keep them from moving around. Well, if you look on here, these are pre-drilled for safety wire. Being an old Marine, I think instead of using these are kind of hideous. I'm going to use some safety wire instead. We'll see, that'll be a little different than normal installations, but hey, they provide it. It's got the hole. Let's use it. All right, so the next thing here is to get this next jet oriented. And again, you can see right there, there's the next jet. That's the main jet. And that needs to go into this hole right here. And this hole at 180 degrees will be oriented with this right here. I'll slide that baby right in. And as long as it's matching up here, then you know that it's matching up down there. You can slide them around until you get those both oriented correctly. All right, that's this step. We'll be moving on to the next one. Quick little note. Let me just point out something that is an error that can be made, and so it'll help you to avoid making it. So do you see on this center jet, this is the main jet on the port. It has kind of a little ridge right here, and you can see when you're looking down in there, I don't know if I'm in focus, but down in there you can see that the jet is pointed in that specific direction. This is properly oriented. It has a little ridge right here. If you did it backwards, this is what it would look like. So you see how there's not a ridge, and when you're looking in there you can see that the jet looks like you can see the inside of the jet. Yeah, you can see this is backwards. The correct, incorrect. Okay, so the trick with this, when you're looking at it, if you can see inside where the jet is right there, the jet, you want it to, the opening portion of the jet to be facing backwards toward the engine. This with the ridge right here needs to be facing out toward the atmosphere, and that's how that is installed correctly. So just a quick little point, that's one place where you can make a mistake, and just kind of avoid that. So there you go. Alright, so I'm going to demonstrate safety wire. How to do safety wire on these two bolts. The object here is to prevent them from going left or going this direction. So the S that we're going to create is going to go this way. Right? That's going to make tension on this wire so that it can't turn that direction, and it's going to make tension on this wire so it can't turn that direction. Alright? So let's go ahead and run this through and find the middle. It's going to be a little bit wasteful, but that's okay. It's not really that expensive a wire. The wire that we're using on this is just some standard 24 gauge galvanized wire, and we just want it to go this direction and then back up to here. What you want to do is find the hole. See the hole right there? That's where you need to measure to that point. Now we're going to twist this wire. The trick with twisting the wire, you don't want to do it like this, because then you'll put a bind on it. You want to grab the wire just like that. So that the wire is kind of grabbing on itself. There we go. Alright, once you get it going, then you want to pull it tight while you're twisting. can see here. Just want to get a spiral. See how we're getting kind of a nice little spiral right here? Okay, that looks very nice. Alright, we're going to come up to here. We want to pull this wire out. Went a little too far. Okay. We want this wire to go through. Pull one over, and you pull one through. There you go. Just want to pull a little pigtail on that. We'll pull them nice and tight. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. Now, I suppose maybe I could have made this a little bit tighter of a twist, but regardless, I think that that looks just fine. So there you go, safety wire. Instead of this honking thing right here. I think it looks pretty good. We'll dress it up and put it on the other side as well, on this side. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start putting the jets in. You can see I've soaking the jets in a little carburetor cleaner. Just kind of sprayed it out. As I was spraying, I sprayed it into a coffee cup. That will let them soak nice and make sure that there's no glazing or any kind of stuff in there. The next thing we need to look at is fuel pathways. Now you can polish and clean and scrub and get all the visible dirt off all day long. Once it's clean, it looks clean, but it may not actually be clean. So what you need to do is you need to trace some of these fuel pathways. Like you can see right here, this is an actual vent way. It goes from right here. You want to make sure that you can see through those vents. So you want to look through these holes and make sure that those holes shine light through on the opposite side. And then the next thing you want to make sure is that this pathway, you can see right here, can you see there's a little hole right there? That hole goes down this little tube and it should come up right here, right? And the same thing for this one. It goes down that tube You see it's drilled through and then capped, and it should come up right here. What you need to do with all these little pathways, there's two here on either side, there's one here. This one goes from this jet to the median jet. It's the jet right there. You just need to make sure that you can run. Now watch right here. When I spray right here, there you go. Do you see how that came out? You just want to make sure that this pathway is not clogged. All right, you do the same thing for all of these pathways. The accelerator pumps through these two right here, and there's these little pathways right here are for some grooves. We'll show you how that works in a minute, but these are not necessarily fuel pathways, but they go down this direction and squirt out right back in here. You see the little pathway? You can follow the pathways as you go. So this path goes down through there and comes out right here. So anyway, just run some carburetor cleaner through there and make sure that all of these pathways respond, just like I did on that example right there. All right, so once we get these all cleaned up, we're satisfied that they've soaked and that there's no residual fuel glazing in there. We're going to go ahead and start assembling, working from this way, going this direction.